please go ahead and give us an overview about this project.
Do you have the ability to pull up the drawings that we submitted?
We've read.
I am on the wrong computer to do that. Yes, but not on this computer. Sorry.
Is it possible for me to share on my end?
Yes, do you see the share screen? I think you can.
Okay, great. Just give me 1 second then.
And Christina, while you're doing that, one other thing is we're not taking any public comment about this tonight either. So it's really just you introducing the board to the project.
All right, great. All right. The screen?
Yep, we've got it. Thank you.
All right, great. So on the left here, this is the property as it is today. This is currently an auto mechanic shop in the front and a garage space in the rear. On the right, you'll see the proposed site plan. We're proposing a bar and a restaurant space in the front that is primarily a brewery. The brewery is going to be on site, and that's going to be held within this building in the rear. So we are going to reuse the structures that exist. There's a portion of the building in the rear that we're proposing to remove and replace with like a trellis, a covered outdoor seating area. But other than that, the structures are going to remain and be renovated for the new use. In the front, we're proposing improvements to the parking area. It's existing asphalt today, and it will remain as asphalt. We have proposed 7 parking spaces, which will be lined in the front of the building, and there'll be new landscaping and lighting, which we've detailed in these drawings. Primarily, we're proposing to reshape this front garden area right by the street, and then just refurbish the other landscaping beds. Along the side of the building, there's an existing driveway which will remain. This will be mainly used for deliveries back to the brewery space in the back. And then the rest of the rear yard will be used for the brewery use for for outdoor seating and so forth. So is there any questions so far?
I noticed, not a question, but a comment and sort of a thank you. I noticed that the dumpster area is way back behind and accessed by that side driveway. So I appreciate you pulling that way back off the street and out of sight.
Absolutely. Yeah, we thought that was a good place to tuck that away. I should also point out that we're proposing a bike rack in the front on this side of the building. The existing fence and gate that sections off the rear yard will remain. And the main entrance of the building will remain where it's currently located, but it's going to be, I'll show you the elevations in a minute. That's going to be, renovated. The existing garage doors will will remain or be refurbished. So we anticipate having, some outdoor seating along the front sort of sidewalk area. So any other questions before I move on to the other drawings?
I think you can go.
Thank you. So this is an overall floor plan of the main building. So you can see along the front here, this is the side that would be oriented towards Columbia Street. This is the rear yard back here. And, we're showing some outdoor seating. This is the main entrance here with a ramp up to that entrance. And then you can see how we've outfitted the building for the new use, with a bar in the main space, a lounge area to the side, a second lounge area in the back. This is the area of the outdoor patio that I mentioned. And if you look to the left up here, you can see the portion of the building that we're proposing to remove and create that outdoor patio space. And on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see again, the main entrance and the lobby, the restrooms, and then this portion of the building back here is really back of house. That's staff restroom, kitchen, and office.
And how many people will the indoor part of it, I guess, and the little courtyard seat?
The occupancy, I believe, is 114 people as we currently have it calculated. And that would be within this building that I'm showing you. Then there would be additional occupants just by code in the brewery space based on the square footage. That would be up to 25 occupants as allowed by the building code. And I wouldn't anticipate that there would be nearly that number needed to run the actual brewery operation. So
The brewery, that it's a hard word for me, brewery part is for work. That's not where people go and buy beer or buy anything, do they?
Correct. The actual brewing operation, if I switch back to the site plan, will take place in this existing garage structure. So that would be where the actual brewing of beer would occur. And then, once it's brewed, then it would be brought into this space, which is really operating as a tasting room, as a bar, serving their own beer along with food and so forth. Any other questions on the floor plan?
I think you can move along.
Great. So this sheet shows the proposed north elevation. This is the side facing the street. On the left, you'll see the smaller version showing the existing north elevation. We're proposing to revamp this portion of the structure. This is where the ADA ramp would be, with the entrance and new windows, new lighting on the building. The garage doors would either be repaired and restored or replaced with metal and glass overhead doors. And you can see here the planters that we're proposing along the front, which would act as a barrier between the small seating area and the parking area. The roofing would remain. There would be a new paint scheme. Below here, you'll see the west elevation. If you compare that to the existing west elevation, you'll see that we're proposing to close up 2 openings on either side of this chimney and that entrance. That's going to be a wall for merchandise, and proposing to add 2 new windows along that hallway leading back to the bathrooms, and then to reconstruct this rear portion of the building so that it's one volume. As you can see in the existing, there's multiple structures back there, so we're looking to kind of clean that up. This is a detail of the proposed signage. This is an existing sign base, which would remain. And then we're proposing to replace the existing internally illuminated sign with a new internally illuminated sign in the style of a vintage gas station. And that would be a smaller size to meet the current code requirements from your zoning code.
Okay.
And this is the rear elevation, showing the rear of the building. Improvements to this kitchen structure include new siding, new windows and doors. This is the area of the outdoor seating. This over here, you can see the structure that we're proposing to be removed. And along this side, again, new windows, paint, new roofing, and new landscaping along the east. New door along the east into that that service space in between the main bar and the rear dining room. And this last page shows photos of the existing conditions.
That's very complete, Christina. Board, do you have any questions? Thank you very much.
I'm sure we will, but
Yeah.
I have a comment, and it's rather minor. Imagine that we're going to have a public hearing on this. It might be useful for the public to have the site plan and the floor plan oriented in the same direction. It's a little hard at first.
Sure.
See that you flip them.
Yep.
It just might be really hard for the public who has a hard time already reading drawings to make that leap with you.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I have no comments.
what? What'd you say, Larry?
I don't have any other comments.
Anybody else, board?
This isn't exactly a comment, but more of a question for the board, actually. Laura mentioned at the last meeting an idea from a seeker training, I think that you attended, Laura, about kind of referencing the seeker questionnaire earlier in the application process rather than kind of doing it right at the end, so that our questions are kind of informed by that framework. So just since we have some new application before us, I was wondering if we wanted to consider that idea, because I thought it was really interesting. That I feel like every time I get to the seeker questionnaire, there's always something that I'm like, I wish we'd asked more. I don't know if there was more from that training that you would add on that point, but we just didn't really have a chance to discuss it last meeting.
I think basically you're right, Steve. And I think once we get the escrow in place and Victoria's fully on board, and she hasn't seen the application yet, and she can help us craft all of those details for the next meeting. I think that's the time to do it.
Right.
Or do you agree? I mean, this is a new process for all of us. We've never.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's a great idea.
Agreed.
Okay.
To start with seeker is your question, Bets?
Yeah, basically just, name the action so the applicants know what it is they have to do and what we expect, and we have, you know, our attorney on board, and if they have attorneys, they have their people on board, and we're all sort of in the room at the same time discussing all the detailed aspects and the legal aspects of every application together. I think that way there are no surprises for the applicant, and there are no surprises for us. And Christina, I must apologize for the delay, because going forward, we might have been able to do that tonight, but the city is just passing this fee structure, and it missed the July meeting for planning, which is why I'm just asking you to consider a blanket $3,000 escrow with the treasurer right now. That's coming up at their meeting in 2 weeks. So normally I could have handled this with you before this meeting.
I appreciate the explanation, so.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. It was a timing problem with the Common Council and getting that stuff all finalized. So.
No, I noticed it on both of your items on tonight's agenda, so.
I really apologize about that.
I have a question
We're
as
all
well.
getting used to all these new rules and regs, and but I do think next month we'll be able to really fully discuss this and name it. A board, would you be comfortable opening a public hearing on this next month? So that, is there a reason not to?
I guess even though I'm the one that suggested that we start with seeker, that's what, you know, that training suggested. I have to say, I don't really understand how that's going to work. In other words, for example, you know, if one of the seeker questions has to do with the, you know, I'm just going to make, you know, say this in layman's term, you know, does the project in any way impact, you know, the integrity of the community? It doesn't say that, but it says something to that effect. But so how would we know at the beginning? You know, I don't understand how this would work, and I also don't understand why you just asked us if we would be willing to, if this should go to a public hearing, even though we haven't really discussed the application.
Can
Can I answer that?
Sorry about
Can I
that.
reply? My understanding is that we would review the questions and not actually determine our answers to those questions, right? So that we remind ourselves what the topics of concern and consideration are under seeker, but not to actually determine whether any of the answers were yes or no. But just remind ourselves of what the questions are, and remind the applicant. What the questions
That's what she said. They said also that's you get the information. So what seeker does is it gives you the opportunity to go over the questions and then request or seek the information that you need to be able to give the answer, you know, to give,
Yes, that's what I think we're asking for. Oh, that bad feedback.
In answer to Betsy's earlier question, I think it would be fine for me anyway to proceed with public hearings next month.
for this project.
Yeah,
Okay, now this is new, because so that's fine with me, except for I don't understand it. We're going to have a public hearing so that the public is therefore involved early on, and that will help us determine, you know, what some of the information that we might need.
yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
but then we just keep that public hearing open and as the process goes on.
I would think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
I had a comment as well, a question. This is actually,
I'm sorry, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Oh, sorry, you said a comment or just a question on presentation. I guess related to what Larry was saying. I know in the past, the sort of 3D renderings of your final proposal, it's great having the existing condition, but the renderings always show a lot and tell a lot. So I'm not sure if you're planning on doing architectural 3D renderings. I know the structures aren't changing a whole lot, but it'd be nice to see what they look like sort of in final form if possible.
Yes, we can accommodate that.
The public really likes that too.
Yeah, it's very, very helpful. Thank
That would
you.
be great. All right, so board, do I have a motion, or do we feel that this application is substantially complete?
Mm,
Well, I kind of want to see Clark's drawings.
Okay, then
Me-
let's
me
wait
too.
until next month. If, okay, that's totally fine. So Christina, I think the next steps, Larry, let me go back to you, excuse me. Larry, do you want to see those before we open the public hearing?
No. I mean, she'll present at the beginning of the meeting, right? I mean, beginning of her agenda item.
Well,
And
we'll probably get them earlier.
yeah,
We can get them earlier, right?
And they can be posted for the public, right?
Yep, and they would be posted on the city website.
Yeah. Okay.
Christina, how long do you think it'll take to get that rendering?
I think we can get that within 2 weeks.
Well, that would be fine, because that's two weeks in advance of our next meeting. So that gives us and the public plenty of time to look it over. So that would,
What I'd also ask, I wonder if it's possible to have your consultant kind of expedite their review, since this process is kind of new and shifted. If we get our escrow in right away, would they be able to respond with comments quickly as soon as possible, so that we could then respond and give you a response, revised drawings prior to the submission deadline for the next meeting?
well, I think this is what the process is. We already know from our code enforcement officer that this is a conditional use in this GCT area, and that it requires site plan approval by the board. So we know a project like this would almost always go to a public hearing. So I think what we'll do is, if you can get us these renderings of what the building will look like when it's completed, those will then, I will send them out to the board and we will post them on the city website. Then at the next meeting, we'll have our attorney on board, because we will have set up escrow. And at that point, we can discuss the secret questions, decide if there's anything else we need to know from you, open the public hearing so the public has an opportunity to comment on the project, because that's important. And we'll keep it open until we get all the information that we need. It could be, some of these go very quickly and some do not. And then we'll just move through the process. And if you want, Christina, just so that you sort of understand what the process is, I'm happy to write that out for you. I can't promise you what the calendar will be on it, but I can certainly write out what the process is, so that you understand exactly what you can expect going forward. Would that be helpful?
That would be very helpful.
Okay. Because our so-called expert is really just our attorney, who makes sure that we're doing things correct.
So
It's not a beauty person.
Planning consultant, in other words. So you're not going to receive a detailed analysis of this application necessarily.
No, that's us.
Okay.
This is just making sure that we're doing everything right, and that we've crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's with you, and we know how to consult you going forward.
No, I appreciate that. That actually helps immensely. I appreciate the clarification.
I will do that. So I will get you this week. I will get you the review steps so that you understand the process, and I'll just start making this something I do for all applicants. And I will also send you a sheet on how to set up escrow with the treasurer. And you should know about escrow that any monies that are not spent are obviously returned to you at the conclusion of the site plan review.
Thank you.
All right, so do I have a motion, board, to open the public hearing on this matter next month in September?
I move that we open public hearing on this application next month.
I'll
Thank
second.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, John. I will do roll call. John,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Betsy, yes. Good, so that's unanimous. So Christina, we'll see you in September. I'll send you all that information.
Thank you all.
Thanks for the overview tonight. I appreciate it. All right, jump off your shared screen.
All righty.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, board. Our next order of business is a site plan application from Galvan Initiatives Foundation to remove 3 residential structures and construct a residential apartment building with a commercial area on the 3 parcels at 65 to 75 North 7th Street. So we need, again, to establish an escrow account here, and we want an overview. Dan, welcome. Are you going to be presenting this project tonight?
I am. I'll kick us off and then I'll pass it over to the other members of our project team.
Okay, so Dan, right up front, as you probably just heard, we're setting up escrow for this. And we're suggesting escrow for this project because of its size and its complexity to be at $10,000. So I will send you the forms to set that escrow up for with the city treasurer. I can get that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
You agree to that? Okay, great. Thank you. Just so that you know, that pays for our attorney fees and if engineers need to be called in or any other experts. That's what those fees will cover, and you would approve any bills that come out of escrow. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So, okay.
Betsy, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but before we hear from Dan, which I'm eager to hear from Dan, can you just give me some overview on what planning board's role is in the evaluation of this project? And how does tonight fit into our larger scope of review?
Well, this is a project that may need a zoning variance. I don't know. Craig has said that he thinks it may need a zoning variance because of the lot coverage. So that's going to be between the Galvan attorneys and Victoria to determine. We do not have to get embroiled in that. So they'll be working together on interpreting the code and determining whether or not zoning needs to come in on this as well. There's no reason why zoning and planning can't be reviewing this application concurrently. That's fine to do. I confirmed that with Craig today. So basically we're looking at tonight, what we'll do is we'll have an overview, just as we just did on the Columbia Street project. We'll have an overview of the project. So it lands it on our desks and we understand it. Then escrow will be open and Victoria will be here next month when we can, at that point, hopefully Victoria and Dan and the Galvan attorneys will have figured out whether or not this needs to go to zoning as well.
Betsy, I mean, this is all new in some ways, but I'd just like to advise that next time we don't have this presentation by applicants until Victoria, until the escrow's been paid and she's here, because we're just going to double back now. You know what I mean? Is that possible?
And we were hoping, Laura, that this would be very smooth and that the Common Council would have approved the new fee structure, and they just inadvertently left planning out of it. So now it has to go to them for this month. So I didn't want to hold the applications up. I wanted them to get on our desk so we can start reviewing them. But this won't happen in the future. And my sincerest apologies to all of you.
No, it's not your fault. I just didn't understand why, even though I see now what you're talking about. Okay.
So there's a whole fee schedule that's being voted on by the Common Council at their August meeting. They missed the July, they just neglected to add planning to the July meeting.
I see. Okay.
That was an unfortunate error.
I see. Thanks. I didn't understand.
So that's why I'm trying to, that's why I tried to move along the last applicant. I want to make sure this gets on our desk so we can start reviewing it so we don't hold up the entire review process because of a foible.
And
Okay.
I want to say something before we get started, because I see that the Conic Engineering is on this project. And I just wanted to be in the records that I have contacted the Conic Engineering to do some work personally for me in my home. So I hope it doesn't create a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Teresa. I can't imagine that would, because you have no interest in this particular project at
Yeah.
7th Street. But thank you very much for bringing that up, and we will make that part of the record. Okay, so Dan and team, take it away. Introduce us to this project. And if you'd like to screen share, please do. I encourage you to.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Kent. I'm with Galvin Foundation, and we're pleased to present 75 North 7th Street. This is a 77-unit mixed-income housing development, which includes ground floor commercial space. And this project was born out of community input and out of the Hudson Comprehensive Plan and the Hudson Strategic Housing Action Plan, both of which explicitly call for the development of mixed income housing to address the affordable housing challenges faced in the city of Hudson. So we present this project. The commercial space has a special preference for minority-owned businesses. The mixed income housing is truly mixed income. It includes 35% of units at a low income affordability tier, another 35% at a moderate income tier, and then the final 30% at middle income, which is closer to market rate. So this project creates a mixed community and an opportunity for people of a wide range of income levels to live right in the center of the city of Hudson. Our project has received extensive community input. We've been going through a process of obtaining a pilot agreement from the Common Council, and we've made numerous changes to strengthen the project in response to the great input that we've received from council members and their constituents. At this point, I'll leave it to the rest of our projects team to walk you through our application. Our land use counsel is Charlie Gottlieb from Whiteman Osterman Hanna. Our site civil engineer is Chad Lindberg from Taconic Engineering. And our project architect is George Chang from Urban Architectural Initiative. So at that, I will turn it over to Charlie.
Good evening, everyone. Charlie Gottlieb from Whiteman Osterman and Hanna. Happy to be here this evening. I just, I understand that Victoria has not yet been engaged. I've worked with Victoria in the past, so I did reach out to her and let her know that I was involved in the project. So she's looking forward to the application, and her and I can work through the process, the details, and so forth. Tonight, we hope to just get some initial feedback. We submitted a preliminary application. We do expect to submit a more comprehensive application for the next meeting. At the prior matter, it was discussed kind of what secret impacts should we assess, what are the questions, and so forth. And I just wanted to let the board know what we plan on submitting, and what I like to do on land use matters is submit a secret narrative that goes through all the impacts and addresses our initial assessment of those impacts right up front so that this board can take a look at it. Things like traffic, drainage, historical review, so forth and so on. So, if there's anything this board sees tonight based on the preliminary review that Chad and George will go through, we will include that in our resubmission in September, so you guys have a fuller packet and we can begin that secret process. We do expect this to be a coordinated secret review because there are multiple agencies that require approval on this project. City Council, for example, with the pilot agreement. We do expect that the planning board would act as the lead agency for this project, meaning you would do the secret review for the project. We can wait until Victoria comes on board, but the first action to make with this board would be to designate yourself lead agency. And then we circulate to all the other agencies. Certainly, we would entertain the board if they wanted to take that action tonight. It's a pretty minor and ministerial action. But I do understand with Victoria not being engaged yet, you may be reluctant to do so. But secret does like that action to happen kind of right away. So, if you have any questions about that, I've done this now several times. Please let me know. other than that, I'll hand it over to Chad to go over the site plan. Again, if you have any questions for me related to process, I have been working with Cheryl and Victoria just preliminarily on this, so I can answer any questions related to process that you might have.
Thank you, Charlie. Hi, Chad.
Hello all. Thank you, Charlie. And I'll present the site plan portion to provide an overview of the project as it stands. There has been a few minor updates on the plan that I'm going to present. We'll get that forwarded back over to the board for both the elevations and the plan view. Okay.
Just so that you know, some of the board members had a little trouble opening these large files. So I had emailed Andy earlier today and asked him to compress them, which he very
Yes.
kindly did. And I'm assuming you got this, and I hope you didn't have it. It was just before the meeting. So anyway, you should have compressed files now that you can open. But Chad, will you be willing to share your screen? And walk us through?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think everyone can see the screen now.
Yep.
Okay, so the first page of our site plan submission is the existing conditions. We have 3 lots currently along 7th Avenue from Rope Alley to the fire station that will be consolidated, and these 5 buildings will be removed. Our consolidation application is teed up with the surveyors at this point and ready to come in to follow succinctly with the application.
Can this be made bigger? Can this be made bigger?
Yep.
Thank you.
How's that?
That's better.
Chad, thank you.
So this is the 7th Street area. Just across in this area is where the current depot project that we were in front of the planning board with earlier this year. The Rope Alley, existing Rope Alley, runs along this area here. Okay. So, and these are the buildings that would be existing buildings to be removed and the 3 lots to be consolidated.
Chad, as I understand it, 3 of those buildings are residential right now. What are the other 2?
I don't have that right here. One second. I'm just looking back at my notes. All of those buildings are residential.
It's a garage and a
One's a garage.
storage build. Yeah, they're both
Yeah.
garage storage spaces.
Garage and storage. Okay.
Yeah,
Not
I-
habitable.
yeah. So there's 3 residences and 2 garage storage buildings associated with those residences.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move over to the proposed plan. The proposed plan is for our 5-story building to run along 7th Street with the commercial space along 7th Street and a return down the alley and a return down the property, kind of encompassing a courtyard space for the residents in the rear of the property. Right. Then the 3rd page of the application is the lighting and landscaping plan that identifies the building lighting as required by the zoning code and the landscaping features to be included in the garden area. The one aspect that was shown on the previous page was the area for refuse storage is along the alley, actually a space inside the building. I think that's an important part of the site plan development at that point. Okay. The next component of the submission is the elevations First is a rendering. George will have more renderings and views to show the building itself. But as part of the site plan application submission, we're showing the actual elevations and heights for the different facades of the property. Okay. Of the proposed state. West elevation, north elevation, south elevation, and east elevation. Those are the technical aspects of the site plan application engineering portion.
Chad, are those solar panels on the roof?
They are. Photovoltaic panels are an integral part of the project.
In the lower left there, that's your trash door there. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chad, can you explain to me the green, I think it's the south elevation. It looks like a green facade.
There is a green wall. I think we're more familiar with green roofs, but there is a green wall that's from our engineering standpoint. It's more of a loading and waterproofing issue. But I'm going to let George get into a little bit more detail as to how the green wall is going to interact with the architectural development of the piece.
And one other question about that sort of, I'm assuming the green wall and this solar panels are all part of trying to be as energy efficient as possible. Are there other energy efficient components that are built into the project of note?
There's the project has awards for energy efficiency, and I would defer back to Dan for some of those parts and pieces that NYSERDA has awarded for the project.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Chad.
Very good. Dan, did you want to comment on that at this point, or?
I think that's part of what George will be describing in his presentation. So I'll let him give an overview of what the NYSERDA Buildings of Excellence Awards entails.
Perfect. So with that, we'll turn it over to George for his comments.
Good evening, everyone. Let me share my screen. So there will be some duplication of the drawings, but here, this is the facade, the elevations that we're proposing. So just touching on the green wall that we're proposing, there was actually we had done Galvin had brought in a Mass Design Group to do a pretty extensive historic study of the city and of the district. And what were really relevant precedences to that we should be looking at to inform our design of the building facade, the building treatment, the form. So our building is really defined by the history of the city, the history of the district, from some of the more traditional Quaker architecture, as well as the industrial architecture of the neighborhood. So we're kind of bringing all those pieces together into the rendering that you're seeing here. I'm glad you noticed the solar panels, the green wall. The project has been awarded the NYSERDA Buildings of Excellence grant. So that allows us to really be aggressive in terms of the sustainable and green design aspects of the building. We are designing the building to be a passive house building. So that means, we're looking to reduce energy usage by upwards of 75 to 90%. So this will be a highly efficient building with the very high insulation value at the exterior walls, triple glazed windows, a heat recovery ventilation system. So that's and so the NYSERDA grant will also will absolutely help to fund those initiatives. And what I can do is I can walk you guys through just preliminary. I think you guys everyone saw the site plan, but I can kind of walk you guys through just in general where the plans are at. I think it might be best if we start on the ground floor. On the ground floor, we'll have commercial spaces, a residential entry, and then essentially a double order corridor of units. I think we're proposing 40 1-bedrooms, 30 2-bedrooms, and 7 3-bedrooms. So these are all individual but also family size units. So we to make sure that we're covering a wide range of populations. So we've got 2 stairs, 2 elevators, and then as we go up to the floors above, this is the typical floor. Again, pretty standard double-loaded corridor. We try to make it as efficient as possible, while still providing as many views to the street as well as views to the shared courtyard in the back. In terms of additional amenities, there's going to be a large community room. There will be bike storage. There will be a laundry room, as well as a fitness room, so that we're also encouraging active design. We want to make sure that folks are leading healthy, active lives, and then in addition to the spacious units that we're providing, there'll also be on-site additional storage. So there'll be storage cages in the lower floor for folks if they needed additional storage. All right. I think that mostly covers the plans. And then in terms of the elevations, in terms of the materials, we're looking at a standing seam roof, a metal standing seam roof with solar panels orientated towards along the path of the sun. The windows, I mentioned, there will be triple glazed. You'll see that they're 6/6 windows, so that we're trying to bring in some of the language of the industrial architecture and bring some of that into the building design. And then in terms of the exterior treatment, we're looking at we're referencing some of the older wood shingle buildings, and in our case, we're going to look to see if we can do something a little bit more durable, which will likely be a fiber cement shingle.
So, yeah.
Any questions?
I have multiple comments. This is the first time we're seeing this, although, certainly the city and the community have already begun to weigh in. And I would imagine that if we're going to be the lead agency, there's going to be quite a lot of public input on the project. And I think that one thing that might really help the public to understand the project here is to see a site plan that is perhaps broader, that includes the depot and whatever plans the owner of that property, which is the same owner, has, and how those might work together to create what would be a substantial alteration of the neighborhood. I think that if you're going to reference neighboring industrial buildings, that would be great, but the public might want to see some of those precedents right in your presentation so that they understand those things. I also think explicit, sharing of what those shingles might look like and what the window model, show people what you're really proposing, because I think that that's going to be a major concern that people have. I think that the renderings are really, really useful. Renderings that show more context. I think that you're apt to get a lot of commentary. I'm anticipating here, I could be totally wrong, but I would imagine that a lot of the commentary might be about bulk and density. And I think that renderings that are perhaps further away from the project and show more context might really help the public understand how this proposal sits in the context. And again, I could be totally wrong about, I'm guessing what people are going to be concerned about. But I think that those things might be, my counsel to you now would be to anticipate public commentary and concerns and address those things as soon as possible.
Understood.
And thank you. We appreciate that comment because it helps us formulate our next submission. So that type of comment is exactly what we hope to get out of this evening's meeting. So thank you.
Yeah. I want to chime in and I guess second the notion that Larry just forwarded, which is a very good one. Really sort of the context and what this building looks like in context. I saw your one very nice rendering, but clearly there's not blue sky going all the way down to the bottom of your building, makes it look very nice. And again, kudos on your fine rendering so far, but we really need to see what it looks like in context of the neighborhood. And I guess second of all, I like the idea of how buildings interact or are designed with their public space, adjacent public space. And again, it's great that you guys have that. It would be very nice to see how that works, what access is, because public spaces can be completely deadly if not perfect, not well designed relative to the access to the building, access to the street, et cetera. So I didn't get any sense of what that public space might look like. Just want to, I guess, reference the other project, the HHA project that came before us a while back, almost 2 years ago now maybe. And I guess I had the same comments, which is what's a public space look like and what's the context of the neighborhood. I appreciate you laying out the income breakdown, which I think is great. And again, referencing the previous public housing, affordable housing project that came before us, I feel like this one's significantly better in the breakdown. And a key item that came before, or a key item that we brought up in the past was the lack of a mix of income levels in a building. So I would say that's very positive, again, compared to the other one that's come before us. So those are my comments, like what's it look like in the neighborhood and your public space plan?
Okay.
And I do know, just from having listened in on some Common Council comments, and you all know this because you were there, but the public's going to be concerned about your interaction with the fire station. That's gonna, I know that will come up, and I know parking will come up. And I would also make sure, I'm sorry, I'm not recalling, is all your exterior lighting dark sky?
Yes.
It is, okay. I think, I just couldn't remember if that was on, if I read that or not. So thank you, good. That's good.
I have one question. You mentioned the stairwells and the elevators. Where are the emergency exits located, and how many will there be?
So there's, based on the building code, we're only right now we're only providing 2. So there was one going through the lobby of the residential lobby, and then the other will be at the basement level, exiting out to Rope Alley.
And is that per code?
Yes.
And those are indicated by the staircases here.
Right. So this is at the basement level. This will take you out to Rope Alley, and then on the first floor, this stair will take you out to the street on the north side.
And both those staircases originate at the highest floor, the 5th floor.
Yep.
Can you go back to the rendering with the green wall?
Sure.
Yeah, maybe it was just me. I mean, I totally read that as brick. I don't know if you were intending that, but tonight is the first time that I understood that those are, you know, quasi wood fiber pulp shingles.
Mhm.
I think that, yeah, that's one of those things that really wants to be clear for the public review.
All right. Okay.
I was going to say, I appreciate how much effort has gone into building in renewable energy sources into the project. You know, seeing the bike room, for instance, I think is a really fantastic detail, but I would love to imagine that everyone living here is going to be traveling by bicycle and you know, completely renewable energy vehicles. But I do have a question about parking, I guess, adding, you know, 77 units.
That was me next.
So I think, you know, there's going to be questions about that for the public as well. And I suppose, you know, doing a traffic study is probably a prudent step to take, even at this stage, because I expect that there's going to be a lot of concerns just about where vehicles are going to go for this many people on this street.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we have a traffic report commissioned and a draft completed to be finalized the next submission. And we will make sure that parking is explored.
But that would be very important, Charlie. Just recent applications that we've reviewed we've spent a lot of time on that. So you'd be well advised to do that.
And just say that the parking situation has a lot to do with the quality of the environment there, and you know, a parking study that's going to show all off-street parking. I just gonna there's I hope you can consider if there's any way to have some. I mean, your traffic study is probably going to show how many parking spaces, on-street parking spaces there are available. I just want to suggest that if there's any way you can eke out some off-street parking, even though we're aware that it's no longer required in the city for that many apartments, I think that I think if there's any way to eke out some off-street parking, that would be terrific.
We'll take a look at what the traffic study, the analysis that's provided, and we'll summarize it for you guys. And, you know, hopefully, you know, we can have a discussion at the next meeting with some more data.
Charlie, I'd like to suggest if that traffic study comes in to you and you're willing to share it before the meeting, I can forward it on to our engineers so they can begin reviewing it too, so that doesn't become a holdup.
Sure. So that kind of leads me to a process question. As far as planning board submissions before the next meeting, I heard the last application 2 weeks before the next meeting work. Is that your typical submission deadline for the next meeting? Or, you know, how early would you like materials?
Well, our real hard deadline for applying to get on our agenda is 10 days before, but we usually really say 15 so that Craig has a little bit of time to review and check the code and get information to us. But
Sure.
Now that you're on our agenda, this is one of the reasons I didn't want to hold you up for the Common Council.
Yeah.
Now you've got this on our desks, the process can begin. So out of courtesy to the board, I would encourage you to get materials to us as early as you can, understanding that if you get it to us the day of the meeting or the day before, many of us work full time, we may not have time to do a thorough review.
Sure.
So I think, you know, just common courtesy would dictate that you give us as much time as you can.
Sure.
And that's to your benefit.
We will circle back after this and come up with some timing of when we can get these respective deliverables done. And hopefully it is in a opportunity, gives you an opportunity to review everything. So I understand Victoria is retained. Now, is the planning board thinking of retaining a specific engineering consultant?
We have been using Barton and LaJudas for a different project. I would have to talk to the board about whether or not that's who they'd like to retain for this project. but we're very mindful of the fact that, you know, we're not going to go out and we're going to use people that are engineers that are local and understand Hudson and the work. So chances are you're going to know whoever we select.
Okay, and I just asked for coordination purposes so we can reach out to them and
Absolutely.
provide them with any information.
And what we would do is you would send information to Victoria, me, and then we would get it along to our engineers, or you would loop the three of us in, and then I'll be responsible for getting it to the rest of the board.
Okay.
I have a
Okay?
question.
Yes, Teresa.
I have a question, and it goes back to the parking. I do understand that the city of Hudson has eliminated that requirement. So I have a question for the planners here. I mean, you have a 77 unit, some of them will have at least 3 people. Everybody has a car. So there was no consideration for parking for the residents here? When this plan was made, there was no consideration for parking for the residents.
You know,
That's-
so I'll start off and then you know, kick it over to others in the team. But you know, from what I'm seeing from a land use and planning perspective, and cities like Hudson, parking requirements are getting slashed and eliminated with the
They're eliminated here.
that, you know, people are moving off street. So, you know, I cite similar situated urban environments as the village of Portchester and Westchester, where I've done a lot of work, and a lot of those mixed use income buildings do have no parking, and they work quite well in those urban environments. But I'll kick it over to Dan or the design team to give you any preliminary insight. But certainly we will also include that analysis in this broader kind of parking impact analysis.
It's going to be a question of the public.
Okay.
I just know it's going to be a concern. I am a public, and it's like 77 unit, and anyone that lives here has to find a place wherever they can.
Sure.
Not even 1 or 2 handicapped? I mean, you know,
No, there's nothing. It says here on the application, there are no proposed parking spaces associated with this project, right? Am I right?
That's correct. Yeah, and our to echo Charlie's statement, our understanding from the Hudson Strategic Housing Action Plan and the process was that, and this was before the city of Hudson removed parking requirements for all projects. That plan explicitly said that, you know, there should be some special consideration of removing these parking requirements to encourage the development of affordable housing and mixed use housing. So I think the Strategic Housing Action Plan was acknowledging that, you know, this type of project faces a very tight budget, and it's a challenge to finance this type of project. So it's not easy for us to afford parking compared to a more market rate development. So that's kind of part of what led us to believe that we could pursue this project while also commissioning a parking study to ensure that there are no undue impacts. So, you know, we'll be happy to share those results and what they find in terms of the availability of on-site parking in the surrounding few blocks.
You know, I would ask the entire team to trust the goodwill and intelligence of your neighbors on a project like this. So if there is an argument that parking spaces are really expensive, then tell us how much it would cost to have done that and why you chose not to. And if there are these examples in Westchester or elsewhere, Portchester, that work, great, show us how they work, right? And that will really help the public understand what the project's impacts might be and whether their concerns are valid or not. And I think that the more transparent you can be as an applicant in anticipating people's concerns and addressing them rationally and reasonably, graphically, if you've got images, that'll go a long way.
Sure.
You know, otherwise it just winds up being, I feel like this is a bad project, or I feel like this is a good project, and you know, no one gets anywhere that way. But I think if you rely on evidence, especially if it's graphic evidence, you'll help people. And if you don't have it, that'll be proof too, right? That maybe people's anxieties are actually well-founded and not unreasonable.
Sure, I completely understand. I've been here before with other municipalities, like I mentioned, and the leap to off-street parking being eliminated is a scary leap for some municipalities. I completely understand. And also it's a two-way street. The applicant has done this studies and the reports and the analysis because they want to make sure these are rentable units, and that there is a market out there for units that don't offer off-street parking spaces. And so we will take a deep dive into that and provide the evidence and the support, as well as, you know, seeing what we can do site plan wise.
The examples that you use from other communities, I would suggest that they be comparable to Hudson.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, Betsy, I just want to, this just occurred to me, and I'm not even sure how to articulate it, but, you know, each project is, and Betsy and board, each project is going to have their traffic study, and, you know, attempt to prove how, you know, there are enough spots within, you know, the community to accommodate their project in terms of parking. And so then, you know, 6 months goes by and we get another, you know, project application, and it's in the same community, but we don't particularly remember that. So they go and they do their traffic study. I mean, you know, I wonder if the board needs to be aware of all the different traffic studies and parking studies that we have done. You know, you see what I mean? We could overlap them, and everybody's going to say they have enough parking.
I can address that, and I completely understand. That burden actually, pursuant to the secret regulations, is not on the board, it's on the applicant. So what the traffic study will review, and you know, you often see this in traffic studies, what are the most recently approved projects, and what are projects that are in the hopper that may get approved in the near future. And the traffic study is supposed to consider all of those and assess the cumulative impacts. That's one of the good things that we try to do with SECRA. So we will hopefully impress upon this board that our analysis encaptures all those prior projects and ones that may be previously approved in this area. Certainly, if there's other projects that the board feels as though impact this one from a parking perspective, take a look at our traffic and parking analysis. You know, Barton and LaJudas as well, or whoever is retained, would critique that and offer peer reviews on that. But we should be incorporating and will incorporate, you know, all the cumulative impacts, so that it's not up to the board to just take things on a project by project basis, but instead it's the applicant's responsibility to do that cumulative assessment.
Thank you.
And board, I would just encourage you, since Dan mentioned the Strategic Housing Action Plan, that does exist on the city's website. And I think it would behoove us all to review it again, because part of this project is a result of that study. And I'm a great believer that studies shouldn't be done and then sit to collect dust on a shelf. So let's look at the Strategic Housing Action Plan. Just take it. I read it. I read it and really paid attention to it. And it took me about an hour to really make notes and think about it. So it's not a huge amount of time I'm asking you to invest, but you should be aware of it and how it coincides or doesn't with this project.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Can I ask you a question about?
Yes, clerk.
I was going to ask a question, and I just wrote down the basic breakdown of the, I guess, low, moderate, and market. And can the applicant tell us, I believe it's based on a percent of average median income. Can you just give us the numbers, what those would include, like your low and moderate, I assume are a range, percentage of that average median income? Again, based on our experience going through HHA's project, that was all revealed, or at least presented to us. So it'd be great to have that information if you have it handy.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's 3 different income tiers. The low income tier is from 40 to 50% of the area median income.
Right.
For Columbia County. The amount is adjusted based on household size, of course. I can pull up some quick examples here. So the income limit, roughly, I'll just use 2 bedrooms. For a 2-bedroom at 40% AMI would be $27,000. So that's roughly working minimum wage full time.
Mm-hmm.
For a 50% AMI unit, 2-bedroom, the income limit is about $35,000. The next tier is 80% AMI. For a 2-bedroom, you're looking at an income limit of a little over $56,000. And then the middle income limit goes all the way up to 130% of AMI, which let me get you the.
Sorry, the moderate, the middle income is what percent again?
So moderate is 80% of AMI. Middle is between 90 to 130% of AMI. For a 2-bedroom at 130% of AMI, that's an income limit of a little over $95,000.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
Okay.
And again, as I'm probably kind of beating a dead horse here, we'll make sure that information is submitted in writing to you guys so that you're able to digest it a little bit more than on the spot.
Okay, thank you.
The board, do you have any more questions for this preliminary review? I think it was very complete. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Does the project already have businesses that are interested in the shops on the ground floor?
We have not identified tenants yet, but we are in the process of reaching out and starting conversations with minority entrepreneurs in the city.
Are any of those subsidized?
So we are underwriting it at a lower rental amount than what you would find on average through the city of Hudson. We've heard from minority entrepreneurs here that they want to open up storefront space, but that doing so on Warren Street is really cost prohibitive. So this is about providing an opportunity for people to develop their business and, in many cases, move it outside of their home and into a public space.
Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, but just a second, Clark, I don't think your question was answered, but is that subsidized? And it's different than the developer deciding that they're going to make the rent lower.
You mean someone helping to pay the rent for the businesses?
Yeah, just the same way as the apartments are subsidized. Are the shops also subsidized?
In a sense, yes, they are, because if it's below market the same way the apartments are below market, but it's not a part of a government subsidy program, if that's the question. So it's not state financed. There's no state requirement that we keep the rents low as there is for the residential units in the building.
That's what I wanted to know the answer to. So go ahead, Clark. Sorry.
I just wanted to get the numbers if you can share those.
Yeah,
Like
sure. We can include that with the average rents for the residential spaces as well as they're currently underwritten.
Sorry, say again. I apologize.
Oh, I'm saying we'll include that in our subsequent submission.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, just one last question for me too. Looking at the Google satellite view was helpful. It just kind of flagged for me that there are residential properties on 6th Street. And it just made me wonder if the height of the building is going to have any kind of impact on the light for those residences. So I don't know to what extent you all have looked at that or done any kind of like solar study, but I would be interested to know what impact the height of the building will have.
Yeah, I think that goes back to my question about, what I anticipate the public concerns are going to be about bulk and scale and, site plans that include a genuine neighborhood context, that include the property across the street, so people can really see just what this thing is and does. And some renderings, from all the way around, what is it like from the corner of 6th Street? How much do we see? All that. I don't know if we had a very nice presentation from the developer of the hotel on Union Street that gave us quite a bit of context in their presentation. Not from the beginning. It took some meetings, but I think that getting that from the outset from you would be great.
And Dan, if you have specific questions for me about that, I'm happy to speak to you on the phone offline. That would be fine.
Great.
Yeah, we'll look at some other angles and zoom out the lens to provide a better context renderings. Not a problem.
Great. Also, even site elevations, site sections that are beyond your building, right? A site, a 7th Street elevation that includes from Columbia to the fire station, right? And just gives us even a 2D version of those things will advance the dialogue.
Got it.
So procedurally, Dan, I'm assuming you're my point person for getting escrow set up and all of that. All right, so I have information to send to you. You can expect it this week, hopefully tomorrow. And obviously, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And next time we'll have Victoria on board and we'll really get in some teeth into this project. So if no one has any further questions for this team tonight, I think we can let them go and we'll see you in September.
Thank you so much for all the thoughtful questions and consideration. We look forward to speaking more.
Yeah, this is very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right. So board, thank you very much for that. I think just to be absolutely certain that I'm doing this right without Victoria here, I think I'd like to pass a resolution for each of those projects that we are establishing escrow, just to be really careful, cautious so that it's on the record. Yes, Laura.
Do you guys think it would be good for us to have our engineer for the guys? I have an R problem. BR brewery.
The brewery
project. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that until they told us how many people they can accommodate. It was 100 and something.
We certainly can, Laura. That's what
I don't know. What do you guys think? It's an interesting, project, but I just thought, that many people, and again, we didn't talk to them about parking, but it's another they have, I think, only 6 or 7
off street.
I think they said 7, yeah.
7.
And that could be for employees. We don't know. But with that large of an establishment, I thought, well, do we want to, get our guys in or whoever?
I think it doesn't hurt us to include Ryan in the escrow request so that we can reach out to them if needed. And if we don't wind up meeting them, then the money goes back to the applicant.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then I also wanted to ask, because you, in terms of the engineer, is it up to us to choose what what engineer we would use? And Larry, do you have any suggestions, or anybody else? Because I don't know any others.
I have no.
I mean, I like Brian.
I don't feel a need to switch. I think it helps our dynamic to keep in the same realm that we're in, so that they understand how we work and how we talk and how we move through projects. They understand the town and don't have there's less ramping up. The only
They're not really local, I guess, is because Betsy, you had mentioned local, and they're not
I
really.
meant I should have said regional as opposed to local. Yeah.
I mean, the local options are before us 2 or 3 times a month, right? Like,
that's right. Yes, they are. John, did you have a comment?
Yeah, one thing that occurred to me, and it was after they did their presentation. It's a former service station and garage. And I don't know if the site might, if there's ever been any remediation or testing done to see what might still be in the soil, see if the tanks, if they're still there, were filled with sand or some other, substance. But it's something that we should think about asking them just to.
We should definitely ask, and that is part of the seeker question.
Right, I know.
Any contamination on the site, and if so, when and where and how is it remediated?
Right. Yeah.
So we'll find out all that information in the course of our review. So I'd like to propose a resolution to the board that will say something to the effect of, whereas the applicant Kula Bob Ventures LLC has applied to the planning board to convert an existing auto service center into a bar, restaurant, and brewery with an event space at 735, 737 Columbia Street, that the applicant be required to open escrow with the city of Hudson Treasurer in the amount of $3,000.
That's about
great. I move that we pass that resolution.
And that includes the lawyer and the.
We don't have to, it's just for any consultants we need to hire, Laura. We don't have to specify. So that was Larry and John.
Yeah.
Okay, let me run through my list. John?
Yes or no?
Yes. Larry?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betsy? Yes. Okay, and the same resolution, whereas the board has received an application from Galvan Initiatives Foundation to remove 3 residential structures and construct a residential apartment building with a commercial area on 3 parcels at 65 to 75 North 7th Street. Will be asked to open, will be asked to open escrow in the amount of $10,000 with the city of Hudson Treasurer. Do I have a second?
I do. A second.
Treasurer, Teresa. Actually, I needed a first, didn't I?
Yeah.
Come on, it's not 11 o'clock. We shouldn't be getting this giddy this early.
John?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Steve? And Betsy? Yes. All right, thank you. I will get those resolutions written up and off to the applicants this week. So now we move on to old business. Did you all have a chance to review the minutes from July 14 and July 27? Did we get both? I think we just got them for the marathon meeting, didn't we?
I thought we did get it just for that.
July 14th, I think that's the only one we've got.
Yeah, that's all we got is July 14th.
I made a bunch of changes and sent them back to Linda, and I haven't gotten revised minutes back. So I think we're gonna have to put this on hold until September.
Yeah, and Betsy, I agree with your wording, what you talked about in terms of the wording for the road.
The road.
Yeah.
I think it's a pet peeve of mine because a haul road is such a very specific mining term. So I prefer private road or causeway when we're talking about the Hudson portion as just a matter of course. Maybe you all don't care.
That's
don't-
fine with me.
Well, it is a mining operation that's bringing stuff to the waterfront, but I agree. I think Causeway, it's a little less.
Yeah.
Um,
I think my understanding is the whole road has a definition of being connected to a mine more directly.
On the property of the mine.
And I
well,
believe,
ultimately, it will be if they connect to Route 9 and then,
Right.
on through, because they own all that property.
But that's not the way it is now, right? So,
No, it's not the way it is now. Right. And I don't have a problem. I'm just throwing it out as kind of a devil's advocate kind of thing.
Okay, well, we can't really discuss the project because it's not on our agenda, but just as a matter of wording, I made that suggestion to Linda, and we can certainly vote on it, make any amendments at our next meeting too. That's totally fine.
Good
Yes,
idea.
is Linda okay?
I don't know.
I did not reply to I didn't make any edits, but I have just a question, and maybe that will result in an edit request. I think this is the meeting where at the end of the meeting, Teresa made a very good point that I had asked the applicant a question during our deliberation, and we had an applicant requesting to speak during our deliberation, both of which we as a board thought were inappropriate, and that we would refrain from doing that in the future by perhaps having Hudson Tech or Shaheem, whomever, mute everybody but us, or that we would understand our own responsibility to not reach out to applicants. I think that was that meeting, and that to me seemed like a really important thing to record in the minutes, because we're doing things by Zoom, and it's a different, frankly, social space than an in-person meeting. And I think that Teresa's point it's an imperative one. Yeah, I was the culprit, so I think I can say that. But I think that, I'd like something in the meeting minutes that reflects our concerns about how we conduct meetings on Zoom. And I can send an email about that. But this was that meeting, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was that one or the 27th. I got
No,
them mixed up in my
the
head.
27th was a special meeting, right?
Yeah, that was the
Right.
short one.
Yeah, I was in Maine then. It was definitely
That's right.
the end of the marathon meeting.
Okay, I will have Linda go back and review the tape on that and make sure that she includes that in the minutes, and then resends the minutes out to everybody. And if you have any additional edits, we'll try to suggest those before the September meeting.
Great.
Does that sound good? Okay, because this is all recorded, so she can go back and look at anything again if she missed stuff. That's one of the great things about recording these. All right, so we're putting off our approval of the minutes. I do not have any bills to approve this month. So we can check that off. Item C is committee reports from IDA and HCDPA. John, do you have anything to report?
We had an IDA meeting this morning or this afternoon. And it was basically the same as it's been. It was the 620 Union Street project and financials that were discussed. And we did committee assignments for governance and finance committee. And that was it.
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Okay, and I was in the HC meeting this morning. We are severing our relationship with HDC, where we have been having a shared services agreement for administrative support. Basically, Branda Mayholtz is the administrative assistant for HDC and HCDPA. And we are severing that relationship with HDC and contracting with Branda as an individual contractor. And she'll be moving into space in City Hall and out of 1 North Front Street, which is the Chamber building. And we're looking at, do you remember with the Stewart's plan, we had that post-benefit agreement with them,
Right.
that they had to improve the corner, and they negotiated that with us. So HCDPA is looking into standardizing that process so that applicants understand coming in when they're going to do major projects in the city. 75 North 7th might be one. That the city may ask for a host benefit agreement, and what that would mean and what those monies could be used for. So we're just at the bare beginning of studying what other towns and cities are doing, and what kinds of fees they're imposing on applicants for that. I'm familiar with this stuff from California. It's widely used out there. That's how everybody gets their playgrounds, their sidewalks, and their lighting. They make developers put it in. So anyway, that was really most of our meeting today, was discussing that kind of thing. We haven't resolved to do anything except more study, other than severing our relationship with HDC. So that was the only action that we took today.
Okay.
So that was that meeting. Any questions? All right. Anybody have anything else?
I just have a question. If we're doing a project that is, where Victoria is not with us, which I still think it's a little strange that she wasn't with us tonight. But we're doing a project that's a smaller one, and therefore we don't get to have Victoria. Do we actually have a lawyer we could ask questions to? I mean, is that Cheryl? And is Cheryl usually in on, the Zoom meetings? I know that she has been on them, but I didn't really see her. Do we have any kind of legal representation?
The answer is yes, Cheryl would be the one, but the other answer is once the Common Council approves this fee schedule, there may be fees that are assessed every time that would cover a certain amount of attorney consultation.
So the fee schedule, for, an application to the planning board, do those monies go to the general, coffer, or is that for our purposes?
I think that I'm not sure exactly how they're going to set it up, Laura. It's all going to be set up through the treasurer's office. And I think basically I had said to Tom, I wanted it to cover legal, if we needed engineering on larger projects, and also list time to take minutes and file all this stuff. That shouldn't be, I don't think that should be on the back of taxpayers. I think that should be paid for by applicants. So my goal in working with him on this was to get those costs covered, and not, because right now we're incurring all the cost, you and me and Steve and Larry and Teresa, for paying these salaries for Craig and Linda and everybody else. So I wanted the fees to be sufficient that they would provide some escrow if we need it. And we could impose escrow on whatever project we want. If we think we want Victoria at every meeting, which I would actually love, we can open escrow to cover it. Unless it's a really simple lot line adjustment. I mean, there's some things I know we can do. So anyway, once I read this legislation that Tom's putting together for the fee structure, I'm happy to share that with you. It'll be going up on the city website any day now, because the Common Council has to vote on it. Their meeting, I think it's on the 18th, maybe. So that's my understanding of it, my conversations with Tom.
Okay.
So I'm with you. I'd like to have a lawyer here all the time. It's a little scary water out here, but anyway. Okay, so Laura, you have places to be. It's 8:15.
My what?
You have places to be. It's 8:15.
No, are we done? I thought we do one more thing. We don't have to do anything else.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
John,
I second.
Larry,
All right.
by saying aye, board.
Aye.
Board. All right. Thank you all so much.
Okay, thanks, Betsy. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks a
Take
lot.
care.
Bye. Bye.
See you next
Wait.
time.